Capital cases are always controversial. It does take a significant amount of courage to represent someone who is extremely unpopular. And the possibility exists that the jury would find for death unanimously and that their own client would be executed. I think that takes courage.
It's really hard to articulate how much respect I have for the people who do this work. You're working to save someone's life. Sometimes people don't want your help. They work against you, but your job is to be the zealous advocate and do everything that you can to make sure that they get the best representation possible.
In State versus Montfort, the defendant was accused of and then ultimately convicted of assassinating a police officer. The evidence in this case was overwhelming in terms of whether or not Mr. Montfort committed the acts he was accused of. The issue was what was his mental state at the time he committed the homicide and whether he was insane at the time under state law. In Washington, it only takes one juror to vote for life to mean that the person doesn't get the death penalty. In this case, it was a unanimous verdict of the jurors in just over an hour after months and months and months of testimony. They got the best outcome they could possibly have expected, which was to save the man's life.
It was very gratifying to have such a concrete and complete repudiation after all the work we'd put into it. Carlo was lead counsel, and Stacy McDonald was on the team, and I was replacing another attorney. The team was much more expansive. We had a mitigation specialist named Keith Roman, fact investigator Denise Scafidi, a paralegal named Risa Collins. The team ended up with some wonderful, wonderful people that were dedicated to saving a life.
I was one of the trial attorneys in State against Joseph McEnroe. McEnroe is a case involving homicide. My client and his girlfriend on Christmas Eve 2007 killed her father, mother, brother, sister-in-law, 5-year-old niece, and 3-year-old nephew. To be the one who has to stand up with that person, and when the state is saying, you know what, there is so little humanity left in this person that we need to kill them. You hope you don't get more than one case like this in a lifetime. I think a lot of people assumed that this would be a death verdict. We had 4 jurors who thought that Joe McEnroe didn't deserve the death penalty.
So working on the Anderson case was particularly challenging. My co-counsel David Sorensen and I were the third set of lawyers. Our client was and is extremely mentally ill, to the point that she did not participate with her lawyers and the experts we retained to assist us in her case. My team and I were able to continue working and to put together the case to the best we were able to. I think we were all very fortunate to work together and to have the support of each other throughout that case.
I was lucky to have the team I worked with. It was Katie Ross and Leo Hamaji. I was grateful and honored to be working with such a good and qualified and experienced team.
We're associated with our clients in that these are the worst of the worst people committing the worst of the worst crimes, and how can you do that work? And we do it for many reasons. For myself, because human life has value.
Racial discrimination is a huge issue with respect to death penalty issues.
Innocent people have been convicted and sentenced to die for crimes they didn't commit. If you execute someone, you can't take that back. You can't make amends. Whereas if they're serving a prison sentence and it turns out they're innocent, you can give them their freedom.
I think it acknowledges what a difficult challenge we all faced with these cases, with McEnroe and with Anderson and with Montfort.
For the Bar Association, recognizing the advocacy that those of us who conduct capital cases is validating.